I'm going to be covering the Aztec Hotel in Monrovia, 311 West Foothill Boulevard.
I've only seen pictures of this, and I know that Craig Owens, he's obsessed with the haunting at that place.
He is, yeah. I don't know if he's hosted a thing there, but...
I think I've seen pictures of him, too.
Yeah, but he's done photo shoots there, and it's beautiful inside. Let's just say up front, yes, the hotel in Monrovia that is decorated beautifully in pre-Columbian Mayan design is called the Aztec Hotel.
Finally, someone points it out.
And those two words are not interchangeable. They were contemporaries, but they lived thousands.
It's one of those things that people in 1,000 years, people might be saying, did Richard Nixon work with George Washington? The gap of time just won't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to anybody. But they were contemporaries, these two civilizations.
But very far apart.
But they were I think over 800 miles apart. One is closer.
Which might as well be another planet.
Exactly, yeah. One is in central Mexico. The other one's closer to Guatemala in the Yucatan Valley. The architect, Robert Stacy Judd, knew full well the difference between the Mayan and the Aztec, but felt the public in the 20s was more familiar with the Aztecs, so he went with that instead.
Why? Why would they be more familiar with the Aztecs? I have
no idea, right? They wouldn't both of them be known? They were okay, whatever. But remember, this is kitsch Southern California, and the more inaccurate and culture appropriating it is, the longer we love it for.
And the harder we love it. The more offensive, the better. Welcome to Route 66.
Welcome to the Washington Redskins. For the
now the Washington football team.
So funny. For the history of the Aztec, we start with its architect, Robert Stacy Judd, who was born in London in 1884. This guy's career has been called restless by people who write about him because it seems like every couple of years he is changing employment, and with each employment opportunity, it's a different city or a different country. He's always on the move.
Con man.
He studied naval architecture at Acton College and continued to study architecture at Westcliff Beach, and then he attended the Regent Street Polytechnic in London and served as an apprentice for 5 years as an architect for the Great Northern Railroad. After that, he was a supervisor overseeing architectural staff at the grounds office of the Franco-British Exposition in London, and soon after he opened up his own office and then took another office in Ventnor.
He's a con artist.
He
clearly has to be a con artist.
What are you renting from?
Yeah.
Stacy Judd, what are you renting from? He was on the Isle of Wight. Which was so funny, where he operated a theater for 3 years. He was known in England for making theaters with an Egyptian theme, designing with Egyptian theme. So he was already looking at old civilizations.
They knew the Aztecs, right?
They were friends. Everyone was building pyramids. After that,
you want to talk about pyramids? Tune into Channel 22 on your walkie-talkie.
To hear about the smartest man alive. After that, Robert Stacy Judd comes to America in 1913. He travels around plenty, but lands in Minot, North Dakota. And when he's there, he's prolific. For the next 2 years, he becomes one of the most successful architects in that state. And by the time he leaves in August of 1916, he had 27 building projects either completed or in the works. Anyways, he leaves North Dakota and begins work in Calgary, Alberta in 1920. He sets up practices and gets some work done, but nothing that really seems to satisfy him. So once again, he moves. 1922, Judd moves to Los Angeles, where he seems to live the rest of his life. No more running for this guy.
They never caught him.
This is where all the cons come. We already covered that episode. It's not known when he first read the two books from John Lloyd Stevens. One of them is The Incidents of Travel in Central America, Chiapas, and Yucatan, and the other one is Incidents of Travel in Yucatan, which had beautifully drawn images by Frederick Catherwood. They were etchings, but at some point Judd reads it, and it changes him. The travel book by Stevens details his exploration of Central America and the ruins of the Maya civilization, and Catherwood's painstaking etchings recreating the exotic intricacies of the designs found there in Chiapas and Yucatan really stirred something in Judd. He was fascinated by these designs. It stirred something in him more than just architecture, but for now, just architecture. So it's 1924, and the city of Monrovia decides that it wants to build a hotel that can get the city some attention and get people to stop there. They decided a flashy hotel would do the trick. The Chamber of Commerce put together money by selling stock in the hotel. They put together $138,000, and the Monrovia Hotel Corporation commissioned Robert Stacy Judd to design it. He had earlier pitched them a pre-Columbian cliff dwelling in the Gold Hills, and they thought it was too much. But together, the two parties compromised on a scaled-down version of his plans and put together $250,000 to pay for the hotel. So they paid him to do the Aztec.
What year was this?
1924, just a couple...
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's con man money. That could really bring out some bad habits in people when you're offered that much money.
Yeah, we'll give you $250,000. A stranger who
read a book about Mayans.
And goes from town to town. For this hotel that would eventually become part of Route 66, Robert Stacy Judd would go for it and incorporate designs and motifs he was influenced by from the Mayan ruins. He would create what many at the time called California's most unique hotel.
But why Mayan? Was there, how there was the Egyptian craze where the Egyptian theater and that sort of thing was built? Was there a Mayan Aztec craze going on?
Yeah, we'll get into it.
Okay,
yeah. Right now, actually, what he would create...
Spontaneous.
Yeah,
spontaneous.
Now that you brought that up,
we'll get to that.
So he wasn't... it was literally the next sentence. So Let me try to answer that question. He wasn't the first one to shoot for what is now called the Mayan Revival architecture. Frank Lloyd Wright had already given us the Hollyhock House and the Ennis House.
Oh, yeah, it is.
But here's the thing about those two is that they were private residences in Hollywood.
Not by my standards.
Not by my pick lock set.
Not according to this bloody fist.
Not according to my credit card, which keeps breaking in the door.
Tell it to this
residences-
brick.
Those are private residences in Hollywood, and we weren't meant to see what the inside really looked like until years later when they would want to tour
when
it.
they would do open mics there.
And they would It wasn't an open mic. It was a show.
It was a show.
It was a full-on show. But this was not one, like I was saying, it's not one of those. This is a hotel built on Route 66, built to stop cars on their way in
you're
and
meant
out
to
of town.
come in here.
Meant to come in and tour around. So, like, all of it was meant to stop you.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting. The exterior is what many people are obviously more familiar with since there hasn't been access to the hotel for years. The hotel itself, the outside is like a pale green, and the decorative elements of the building are like a clay red color. The facade itself is painted stucco. The ornamental elements run along the edges of the facade to accentuate the shape. So, like, the roof line has some designs, the corners of the building have, and then the entrance, like everything around the entrance is the Mayan design.
Is it completely shut down right now? Or?
They've been remodeling it for like 10 years, but
Yeah.
there's no access to
I mean,
it.
you never hear of anyone staying
Yeah, exactly.
in this hotel.
Yeah, there's like lots of intricate designs on the facade, like steep projections, square spires, and my favorite sentence that Ada had to help me with, abstract geometric design motifs.
Oh, Greg, stop it.
Stop it. I'm sweating. And I saw it, like her and I went out there and we saw it, and I thought it was,
I see the geometric squares.
oh, are these
spreading.
abstract geometric design motifs?
Are these doors?
What do you call something like this? Like the Mayans would have, it's a doorknob. No, they wouldn't. Oh, okay. Did Mayans have a bar and grill? No, they didn't. Oh, okay.
Did Mayans have a reception desk when you would get to Maya?
That they did have, actually. And who we're going to be sacrificing today? I don't know if they did sacrifices. I know the Aztecs did.
I've seen Apocalypta. No, I haven't. And
I saw
made
part of it at a barbershop, and I left the barbershop because they were playing it.
because they were supporting Mel Gibson, and I can't tolerate that, even though I just watched Lethal Weapon.
What a great LA movie that is, that we didn't even bring up in our first LA movie.
Burbank the cat.
The cat's like, I'm getting too old for this S word. Does he say that in the first movie?
He says it about 4 times.
Okay.
I'm getting too old for this nip. That's what the cat says.
So her and I drove out there to Monrovia to take a look at it, and we knew it wasn't open, but we wanted to see what it looked like. I thought it was neat, but I wasn't
My
like,
credit card wanted to see what the inside of this doorknob
You're
looked like.
gonna take me inside, right? Okay, credit card. Okay, debit card. But I wasn't dazzled by it. Like, I didn't look at it and be like, wow, this is better than the Ennis house. Like, I was like, this is neat. It's a kitchen, it's fun, and it's different. But where the true skill and magic of the design lie are the interiors of the Aztecs.
Right.
So let's get there. Let's open up first. It officially opened up in September of 1925 and cost $250,000 to construct after a year of building it.
It's right on time for Route 66.
I know, it's like a year right before they were
Yeah.
linked to it. A couple of websites called a modest budget. Okay. The opening night had a dinner and a dance in the cafe for guests, and then they were led on a public tour of the hotel. So just to give you an idea of the hotel, here's a description from a newspaper from 1926, a year after it opened. The Aztec Hotel consists of 36 rooms, all with bath, and contains a large dining hall with a coffee shop adjoining, which would later become the Mayan Bar and Grill and later like the Blue Elephant. Each room in the hotel is decorated differently.
No elephants in South America.
Wonderfully
Wonderful.
landscaped
Wonderful.
wonderfully landscaped grounds, including a charming patio and pleasing views.
And the abstract square doors, square squares.
The abstract geometric design motifs. I did it without having to look at the paper. It's almost
You're
like
learning.
I said it 6 times.
It's almost like that thing where you have to repeat something 10 times before you learn it works.
One of the more interesting things I read was that no 2 rooms are finished in the same style or color. The
So it's
furniture
like the Madonna Inn.
yeah, like the Madonna Inn. The furniture that was made by the Barker Brothers was done to fit the aesthetic of the,
The
building.
Barker Brothers?
Barker Brothers. They didn't do Monopoly. They did Monopoly.
Do
Brothers.
not pass Bo.
Oh no, the police are here. The furniture that was made by the Barker Brothers was done to fit the aesthetic of the building itself. So they drew from design elements from the Aztecs to the Incas and the Toltecs. I'm not good at describing interior design elements, and it was hard to find a good source that would describe the interior. So I think looking at it will do much better service than listening to what I have to say. The entry
Let's
wall.
all look at it right now.
Stop this podcast and look at it. The entry walls to what I think are either hallways or doors are circular, and they protrude out with pre-Columbian design. So like an entryway to, I can't see if it's a hallway or a door to a room, but like on the wall over the space where a door could be, there's just like a round archway you can
I
walk
like
in with
that.
all the designs and stuff.
I like that.
It's really neat looking, yeah.
I like walking through round things.
Me too.
Yeah.
You know what? You need to.
I'm so glad one of us finally said it.
I've always wanted to walk through the automatic doors of the Death Star down the long hallways that open up at an angle, like they're a triangular cut sandwich.
Yeah.
And then the ground, which has the orange lights with the black crate, like the steel. My entire life. If the new Disneyland Rebel thing has that, I'll be so happy.
And hey, let's build that for you. Sponsored by TSA Airlines. Sponsored by
the Barker Brothers.
Sponsored by Circuit City. Barker Brothers. It's the dogs of the Parker Brothers that made their own board game company.
The dogs that play poker because they're so rich because they designed Monopoly.
Those are actually the pets of the Parker Brothers. Not many people know that.
Okay, so inside the Aztec, it's very dark inside because there's a lot of wood and very moody, and I like that a lot. The lights are low. The wood is dark. The light fixtures are really beautiful. The columns and the wooden beams on the ceilings are great. There's a mural inside as well of what looks like the temples in Yucatan. The LA Times said the interior was seductively adorned with murals of Maya culture, including the sun god who must be regularly placated with blood of human sacrifice, which is true, and the god of lust. And I asked Ada, is there a god of lust? She's like, yeah, pretty much all of them.
I'm the god of lust. Give me.
I mean, me and Avina, come on. When I was looking at the photos in the interior, I've only seen one mural, but let's see this lust one. I mean, what's that one about? Where's that? Like a centerfold mural?
It's like a closet that you open.
Va-va-voom. It's very old and moody inside. I really like from standing at the door and looking in. That's very nice.
I've only seen pictures.
Postcards and photos, yeah.
Yeah, pictures of the outside and some pictures of the inside.
It's very neat up close, but I'm dying to see what the inside looks like.
Yeah, I've got a brick in my car.
We can get anywhere with that. I have a nifty little way to get into any little building.
Some people might call this the keys to the city. I call it a brick I keep in the trunk.
I call it a bag of bricks I carry around in my trunk. On first appearances, the Aztec would appear to be 2 stories, but that's not true. There's actually a 3rd floor, a basement, and in the basement of a 1920s hotel, you better believe there was a speakeasy down there. Couldn't find out too much information though. The rates of the Aztec in the 20s were $2 or more for a week, and then you also get a bath. It was phrased weird. It was like,
you also get a bath?
I mean, every room had a bath, but it was like $2 up with bath or something like that. And you're like, what does that mean? 30 cents for lunch, $1 for dinner.
You know what I could get at the Fair Oaks for that price?
They had a lot of people through those first couple of years stay there. They had like writers such as Lloyd Hampton, who wrote articles for national magazines about Mayan architecture and its revival. They had composers like Charles Wakefield Cadman. And they had architects from LA like Arthur Calley and C.A. Gunnemere, along with many other architecture students and peers who would come and study the hotel. All the names from the article from 1926, and we never heard from them again, so they're probably dead and nobody's. Supposedly this was a movie star hotspot at that time in the 20s, but I didn't find any evidence of that. In 1927, though, the president of the Philippine Senate, Manuel Quezon, and his family rested at the Aztec before they continued to San Francisco. Check that out. That's something. Philippine
Royalty.
Senate. People are very wowed by this hotel and the design. They called it daring. They said no one had ever tried anything as bold in Southern California. They said it was the only structure of its kind in existence, combining every modern convenience in a setting of ancient splendor known only to the lost Mayan civilization. The Aztec is well loved.
Plus bath.
$1 dinner. The following year, 1926, that's when Foothill Boulevard is designated as US 66, Route 66. The Aztec sits right on it. But almost as soon as it opened, troubles started. I read somewhere that the money troubles started quickly.
Mayan hotel started encroaching.
The Spanish hotel encroached, and they're like, what's this about? And it was the end for the Aztecs.
We all these Spanish tourists, and suddenly it's Granada Hotel.
I shouldn't have put Melanche as the receptionist. Is that the woman's name who betrayed the Aztecs?
Don't know this story at all.
Let's call my girlfriend. Okay, she'll know.
Hang on, let me get ready to call my girlfriend. Geometric squares,
geometric, abstract motif designs. Nope. Got it all mixed up. But okay, so as soon as it opened, there was troubles. Judd had not been paid in full for his work.
Con man gets conned. No proof that he's a con man.
Never saw it coming.
No proof that he's a con man.
Because he moved a lot. We're like, ooh, fishy.
What's wrong with this guy? He likes to see the world.
Says the guy who's still living in his boyhood home. This guy moves a lot? Suspicious. Lock him up.
He moved more than 8 miles away from his parents? What's he hiding? Because even at 8 miles, I'm hiding a lot.
So Judd sued the stockholders and some of the shareholders of the Aztec for his month's pay. Because I think they paid him for a lot, but there's like a month from August to September 1925 that didn't pay him for, and it covered I think like $1,200 of work, and they didn't want to pay him because of these reasons: asserted negligence on the part of the architect, all right, impractical architectural design, you saw the plans, you know it was coming, and lack of proper supervision on my part or your part. Okay. I think at this point the hotel committee had declared bankruptcy, and by 1927 the deed of the hotel was for sale at a sheriff's sale for $50,000. By this time it was said the owners were listed as Fidelity Savings and Loan Association, and they owned it for another decade, but it remained remained open throughout this and still incredibly popular. By 1931, Route 66 was realigned and bypassed the Aztec Hotel, so travelers wouldn't spot it unless they already knew about it, which they might have since it was incredibly popular already. By 1937, a three-cornered real estate deal went forward for the Aztec, so the new owners were expected to spend $40,000 in modernizing the building and making it operational. None of these factors seemed to slow down the public's love for the Aztec. Through the 40s, this is when it kind of had a new heyday for Hollywood people coming through. Tom Mix, cowboy actor Tom Mix, went there a lot. Clark Gable, on his way to Palm Springs, would stop at the bar, and Bing Crosby as well would stop at the bar there after spending some time at the Santa Anita racing tracks nearby, in quotes. It's not nearby, it's far. And the architect was also enjoying fame. Robert Judd was an accomplished man by the time he built the Aztec, but that really launched his career. After this, he was known for being like a genius and an eccentric. Okay. They compared him to P.T. Barnum for his showmanship. He would apparently go to cocktail parties in full pre-Columbian garb. They said Mayan garb. I showed Ada, and she's like, that's Aztec. He was like in feathers.
That's abstract
covered
Aztec.
in like designs and stuff like that.
Sounds perfectly acceptable.
It sounds like he's ready for Coachella. He was a fixture at the Hollywood crowd. He would like hang out with like Hollywood people all the time, and apparently he would like Betty Davis was incredibly curious about the Mayans, and he'd have to explain to her like this is their civilization is in central Mexico or central Guatemala.
Behold their civilization. And here is their coat check room.
By 1930, Judd was in the Yucatan jungles himself, exploring and searching for new ruins of the Mayan temples. He went with this group from Tulane University, and they had like hired guides who would help them through the jungles. And they discovered things. Apparently, they discovered something called the Temple of the Long Tongue, the Mask, which I asked Ada to look up for me, and she said it is. Let me see if I could find out.
It's an abstract geometric square.
Abstract geometric design motif.
This is the guy,
the designer, the architect.
So he got that into...
Yeah, after he designed that, he like would go to the Yucatan and like look for ruins. He was also writing articles about his expeditions for the LA Times, and they were like a fun read if you're into that. It's like kind of like a little Indiana Jonesy, like using a machete to cut through the jungle to find old ancient relics.
Find old ancient hotels.
In 1932, he got married at a church that he designed, the First Baptist Church on Laurel Street in Ventura. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful building. It looks very Art Deco. Anyways, let me read you the subheading of a news article about him getting married. Stacy Judd and bride explore Mayan ruins in Yucatan with dirigible.
What?
Yeah. That was, I guess, their honeymoon.
This
Pretty
guy
good
is,
wedding.
he is Indiana Jones.
Certainly tried to be. Him and what's his name should have hooked up.
Yeah, Federer.
Antoine Federer.
Come on our honeymoon, you religious nut job.
Yeah, bring all that junk with you. Yeah. He also designed the Masonic Temple in Tujunga. He did lots of like LA homes in like Tudor and Spanish style. La Jolla Beach and Yacht Club.
La Jolla. It's where Conan lives.
Every time I think of La Jolla, I used to La Jolla was my Dr. Seuss reference before. Now it's like Conan abandoned us for La Jolla. I gotta get to La Jolla.
I gotta go to La Jolla.
I talked to you,
but I gotta go to La Jolla.
He designed the Philosophical Research Center in Los Feliz, which I've never seen, and the North Hollywood Maternity Hospital, which I've also never seen, and I couldn't find pictures of. And interestingly, he designed the Atwater Bungalows in Elysian Park, which is like a Hopi-style bungalows or Adobe-style looking houses, on my walking path to Elysian Park that I would pass as a kid all the time. Later in life, Robert Stacy Judd helped design Spruce Goose, working with Howard Hughes on his cartoonishly large plane that couldn't get off the ground. He helped design.
You mean the guy who made a Mayan-themed hotel helped design a novelty?
I thought you were trying to build a temple. Trying to build a plane? It's not going to get off the ground.
A flying temple.
He died in the age of 90 in 1975 while living in Canoga Park and left a Mayan revival-style mark on the region. 3 years after his death, the Aztec Hotel was listed in the National Register of Historic Places, 1978.
Really?
Through the years, it remained open and continued for a while as a tourist spot, but then it became a little more run down and ugly as everything did in the 70s. The LA Times article by Cecilia Rasmussen, which we've brought her up way too many times because she writes really great articles, she says that it went from being a hotel to a boarding house to a flop house to a hangout for hookers. Like that was the progression through the 80s.
If you look at the like anamorph chart of a hotel, that's what it looks like.
It's just like a cigarette getting grosser with more lipstick on it. So by the 1980s, Monrovia was changing though and reclaiming itself as a safe suburb. And when that changed, so did ownership of the Aztec. They remodeled it, and the bar and grill opened as the Brass Elephant in 1983. I said Blue Elephant, but it's Brass Elephant.
Still doesn't exist in South America, brass or blue.
When Route 66 became cool and kitsch again in the 90s, the Aztec had a resurgence. The California Historic Route 66 Association would hold meetings at the Aztec. It was handed over to a singer and a public relations representative for Cadillac dealer Kathy Reese in 2000, and she hoped to get the place running again, but at this point it was hard to track the owners. It's like after this point, 2000, it sounds like I don't know if I'm reading about managers at Switch Lot or owners, because it was like foreclosed on. I think Reese owns it until 2011, and then it got foreclosed on. They tried to sell it as a novelty, didn't really work. They tried to sell it on the ghost stories, that didn't work. Tried to sell it on Route 66 history, nothing seems to have made it like a good selling point. Its current owner is Quinn Han Chan, who bought it in 2012 after it foreclosed. At this point, 2012, it closes for Chen to make renovations. He made significant repairs to this place, like a new roof, new doors, updated the parking to be more like handicap accessible. But according to the San Gabriel Valley Tribune, Chan is at war with the Historic Preservation Commission over the remodeling. Here's a line from that article. When the Historic Preservation Commission got wind of the period inappropriate doors in 2017, it gave Chen 2 years to remove and replace them. Hey, this isn't old. Put an old door up. Who cares if it's easy for Daniel to break in?
Don't put the Star Wars door in, even if Greg likes walking through it.
Mr. Chen now has to do repairs to a neon sign, which he did, replace guest room windows in public view for the south, and he has to replace like a collapsed parapet, like a low protective wall along the roof. The article was written last year, the repairs that he has to make for them to reopen, so it remains closed. According to Route66News.com, 2 conditional use permits approved by the City Planning Commission for the city indicate that Aztec will reopen as a lodging establishment with a restaurant. This after the Planning Commission on the 27th of May approved the permits for the hotel and the Mayan Bar and Grill restaurant. So maybe when the world settles down, maybe when we all go back, when this is all over,
when these trying times,
when it's all over, maybe the
we can be together again
at the Aztec Hotel, which will be open for us to visit.
Meet me at the Aztec. That is weird that the different ways they're trying to market it aren't taking, but I kind of feel like it should be marketed as all three, like not just like it's a haunted hotel, it's a this hotel. It should be like this is a novelty haunted Route 66 hotel. But also I can see it being a hard sell being in Monrovia, like who's staying there.
San Gabriel Valley has a lot of really great stuff, and it's a really beautiful area. But if you come from out of town, Monrovia is far enough to make it not worth coming to. Like, we're going to go to Venice today from Monrovia.
Just take Route 66. I mean, unless you're like family members visiting people who live in that area who don't want you staying in their house, but you also want a whimsical vacation.
Yeah, I mean, when we talked about for the fan writing episode, we were talking about like you pick an area and you stick to it. If you pick San Gabriel Valley, that's still a really good trip.
Yeah,
you got
but
the Huntington Gardens, you got Santa Anita, you got Pasadena.
But nobody's going to do that. Unless this is like your 6th trip to LA.
Yeah, that's true.
Nobody's going to do that.
But if you're listening and you want to come and you're like, where do I stay? Hey, San Gabriel Valley is fine. And it's not too far.
No, it's not. I mean, you're going out all day. You might as well just...
You're going to be passing like one of the most beautiful areas in LA County to get to LA City. And that's absolutely fine.